Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over my review and prep process for Pokemon cards. I just posted a video about sports cards last week, going over how I review and prep those, but Pokemon cards a little bit different, same kind of principles, but just a little bit different. So I want to make it a separate video for that. So first up, you guys want to obviously have your cards that you want to grade. I have some examples here that I've already reviewed, so we'll get some different issues with them and also some clean cards that look good. You want a magnifying glass, kind of optional. I like it. I think it helps a lot, but people have mixed opinions on that. Microfiber cloth, this is a must. Definitely a must for sports cards. Pokemon cards, I still like to have it for sure. And then it's always nice to have a pack of fresh sleeves. I mean, you can always put them back in the sleeve they came in, but I would just recommend having a new stash of sleeves that you can use for cards you're going to send in. So let's take a look at these cards and see what is wrong with them and what ones look good. So first up, Alakazam. This is an older card from 1995. So these are going to be obviously a little bit harder to grade. Let's just take a look at what I look at first. So right off the rip, I always look at centering. It just is easiest to look at. You can easily rule out a card without even really inspecting it, just based off the centering. PSA allows 55, 45 on the front, and then 75 to 25 on the back. But I normally don't even care about the back, to be honest with you. I just look at the front. And this one looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit thin here on the bottom, and then a little bit thin here on this side. But I would still look at the rest of the card before I made a decision. It's not too off. Looking at the back of the card, you can see there's a lot of edge wear up here, and that's going to be a common issue with Pokemon cards because the back is blue, so a lot of the whitening shows. You're going to have a lot of issues on the modern cards too, and old cards with this whitening on the corners. That's very common, if you can see right there. So automatically, just judging off the back of this card, I'm not going to send this one in. It's an older card again, so I'm not expecting to send it in, but still would have been nice. The hollow right there is also a little scratched, little print lines and everything. So just not a card I would send in. That's kind of one I can quickly rule out. Moving on to some modern cards. Let's look at this Latios from Surging Sparks. This one looks pretty good, as you guys can tell. Centering is the only issue. Top to bottom, it's definitely a little bit thin up there. So for Pokemon cards, these illustration rares really have a bad gem rate. I always go on gemrate.com. I'll pop it up on the screen now and look at the set gem rate and also the individual card gem rate. And that's why the multiplier on these cards is so big, because they're really hard to grade. Anyway, the rest of the card does look clean. Again, look over the card underneath the light. That's a big thing you got to do. You got to shine it underneath the light and see if you can find any dimples or any scratches. This one does look pretty good in terms of the surface, but again, that centering on the front probably is going to be a no-go. I still might send it in because it does have a high multiplier and the rest of the card does look pretty clean. Again, these illustration rares also have a lot of whitening on the corners normally, but this one looks pretty good. So I don't know, we'll see. When I do send a card in, I do give it a little wipe down. Even if I see a little scuff or a scratch in the card, wiping it down with a microfiber cloth does do the trick for the most of the time. If it doesn't, then I wouldn't even fool with it, to be honest with you. I would just not send it in. But that one looks okay besides the centering, so we're going to put that one to the side for now. Next is Entei from Crown Zenith. Really cool card, one of my favorites. I did gem one of these. Then I sent this one in, I cracked it out. It got an 8 at first, but I saw why after I cracked it out. So centering looks really good on this one. The special illustration rares do normally have better centering from my experience, but the modern cards still, the quality control is pretty bad on a lot of the newer sets in the past year or two. But Crown Zenith was, 2023, so a little bit better back then. So looking at the back of the card, shining underneath the light, does look good. There's no white corners or anything. But if you guys can tell, let's see if I can find it right there. There's a little dent in the card up top, and that's going to be a major knock right there. I don't know, some graders might let that slide, but for the most of the time, it's going to knock you down a couple points right there. So I would definitely look out for these little dents on the edges, especially on the back. They're a lot easier to see. I had one of those Kyurem EXs from Black Bolt that had the same thing, unfortunately, but other than that, the card looks great, but still not something I'd send in just because of that dent on the back. So we're gonna go ahead and put this one back on the side. And if I do sell any of these on eBay, which I will, I always list the flaw that I see in it. If it's major, if it's something little, like a little tiny white corner or something, then I'll just list it as excellent or lightly played. But if it's something like that, I'll obviously list that flaw. So that's a tip for you guys too, so you don't get any unhappy customers on eBay. Always list what's wrong with the card. Looking at this card, this one looks really good. The centering, you can see, is 45, 55 definitely on the top and the bottom, and then left to right. Looking at the back and shining underneath the light, looks pretty good. No scratches or dings. You will get these like little raised edges here. I don't know if you can see on the corners, but normally if there's no whitening, I still send it in. It's a little bit different than the dent on the top of the card in the last one. I think it's just how they're made, how they're printed. So this one does look pretty good, passes the test. The surface is a much bigger thing on sports cards. Normally the Pokemon cards have a good surface. You still want to look at it obviously, because sometimes there's a scratch or a scuff or something, but for the most part they do have a better surface than sports cards. So this one definitely one I will send in. And then lastly, this Dialga from Crown Zenith. Again, back to the Crown Zenith cards. These have really high gem rate, so I like grading these. I've already graded one of them. I got a 10 on it. So looking at this one, again, the centering looks pretty good. Maybe a tiny bit up top is a little bit thick, but I think it's still pretty good. And then looking at the back, there's no whitening on the corners, and then the centering is pretty good too. Again, the back centering doesn't really matter too much. It is definitely thicker on this side, but I say it falls within 75-25, so I'm not too worried about that. But it does look good. There's no dents or anything on the back, on the edges. That's just the light, I think, right there for that corner. Let's see. Yeah, that's just the light. I'm not too worried about that. You do want to be careful not to hit your card like I just did. But anyway, looks pretty good. I will definitely send this one in. And, before, give a little wipe down and stuff. This is a fresh sleeve. I already gave it a fresh sleeve before this video, before I reviewed the card. But looks good. So definitely gonna send that one in. And we'll see how I do. I'll have a grading submission back here in a few months with these two cards in it and see what they get. But that's kind of my process for Pokemon cards. Nothing too crazy, pretty simple. That's an empty card right there. Nothing too crazy, pretty simple. I think that Pokemon cards are normally pretty easy to tell for the most part if they're gonna get a gem or not, because you gotta all you gotta look for is the centering, the corners, and the edges. Surface is not too much of a thing in terms of Pokemon cards that I've experienced. Unless you have like a hollow card like this, an older one that has, scratches or whatnot. But for the new modern cards, normally the surface is always pretty good. So that's what I do. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned something if you do wind up grading Pokemon cards or wanted to know how. Again, you want to put these in the card savers before you send them to PSA or Beckett. No pull tabs or anything, just like this. I'll make another video going over how I submit my cards, the whole process later on, once I do my next submission. But anyway, guys, I really appreciate y'all watching. I hope you guys learned something, and I'll catch you next one. Peace.